Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of big news to share with you today. We're going to start off with a story coming out from the Donetsk region of Ukraine. This is an occupied territory currently controlled by the Russians. We have a former director of the infamous Russian prison camp of Avdiivka who was assassinated today. His name is Sergei Yevsuyukov. All right, and he's apparently wanted also by Ukraine for 53 Ukrainian POWs that were murdered in July of 2022 and apparently tortured also. So a bomb was planted on his car in the town of Avdiivka, and while he was driving along, it exploded and took his life, and also his wife was inside of the car. Her leg was severely damaged. I think she actually lost her leg, and she's in critical condition in the hospital right now. So another major attack on a top official for the Russians. We just reported this not too long ago down in the Crimean Peninsula. We had a missile commander for Russia's Black Sea Fleet that was also eliminated, similar to what happened here. We had a car bomb planted on his vehicle as well. So it looks like another major hit to Russia's top officials. So let's talk more about this today. We'll go over that in just a minute. And also we have reports that Friedrich Merz, he is the German opposition leader who's currently running for chancellor in Germany, also visited Kiev today to meet with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and he showed his support for long-range Taurus cruise missiles for Ukraine. And we have been hearing for several weeks now that if he does end up becoming the German chancellor, which he probably will be, that he will be very supportive of sending the Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine. So I should expect in the coming weeks and months that we will probably be hearing very soon that Ukraine will be receiving these Taurus missiles. So we've got lots of other things to go over, so I want to go ahead and start getting right into this and sharing some of these details with you. We're going to start off talking about this story of this former director of this Russian prison camp being assassinated today. Then we'll jump into lots of other news that I have for you guys. So let's start off here on the BBC. It says Russian prison boss killed in a car blast in occupied Ukraine. So we're going to go over this briefly. I'm not going to show you guys the whole article, but we'll just go over what the details that they have regarding this attack. And then we'll jump on over to X, and I've got video footage for you guys over there too. So here's a picture of his car from Sergei Yevsuyukov. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. He was eliminated just today. So the former head of a notorious prison in Russian-occupied Ukraine has reportedly been killed in a car blast in Donetsk, in what is being seen as the latest in a series of attacks on pro-Kremlin figures in occupied land. Ukrainian media say that Sergei Yevsuyukov, 49 years old, was killed in a blast from an explosive device planted under his car, with one outlet reporting that the explosive was equivalent to about 100 grams of TNT. Yevsuyukov was chief of the Avdiivka prison when dozens of Ukrainian prisoners of war died in a missile strike in July 2022. Russia blamed Ukraine for Monday's attack, but Ukraine said Russia had targeted the prison to destroy evidence of torture and other war crimes committed there. On Monday, Russian authorities said they had opened a criminal investigation into the incident, which took place near the city center. They did not confirm identities, but said 2 local residents had been injured. Ukrainian bloggers reported Yevsuyukov's wife had also been injured in the attack, losing a leg, and was in the hospital on a critical condition. We are conducting a detailed examination of the scene of the incident and a set of operational investigative measures, the Russian Investigations Committee said. Footage of the scene shows the burnt-out white SUV parked on a main street in Donetsk. Yevsuyukov's killing is being seen as the latest in a string of targeted attacks by Ukraine and Russian officers, Russian-installed military officials, and pro-Kremlin public figures in occupied Ukrainian territory and in Russia. So it looks like most likely this was the work of Ukraine doing this. Maybe their special forces or some partisans were involved in this inside of the town of Avdiivka. So we're going to jump on over to X, and I've got things I want to show you over here. I'll show you guys this video real quick. It's just 20 seconds with sound. This is from Tendar. Sergei Yevsuyukov, the former director of the infamous Russian prison camp of Avdiivka, where 53 Ukrainian POWs were murdered in July 2022, was killed by a car bomb in Russian-occupied Donetsk. So we got a 21-second video to show you guys. Go ahead and take a look at this. We'll be right back.
Давай, не расписай.
All right, so yet again, another targeted attack and assassination on a top official from the Russians. So pretty crazy, complete damage to that vehicle. It has been utterly destroyed from this bomb. Okay, also from War Translated Dmitry, reports indicate that the head of the Avdiivka prison colony in Donetsk, infamously linked to the mass murder of Azovstal defenders by occupiers in 2022, has been killed in a car bombing in Donetsk this morning. So this is a video we just showed you guys, but I pulled this up to show you a photo of this man. This was posted on Telegram, and it says right here, in Donetsk, the head of the Yelenovskaya colony of the DPR, Sergei Yevsuyakov, was killed in a car explosion. Earlier, Banderites offered a $21,000 reward for his head. Another terrorist attack, the IED was planted under the bottom of an SUV. The preliminary power of the device was about 100 grams of TNT equivalent. So it looks like there was a bounty on his head for in order to eliminate him. Looks like this was a successful attack, and he was killed just today in this car bombing. Okay, very crazy news coming out from there. So now we're going to move on and talk about Friedrich Merz, the German opposition leader that's running for chancellor inside Germany right now, and him visiting inside of Ukraine. This is a video of him meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev. It says here from Bliskovka, German opposition leader Friedrich Merz said he supports providing Ukraine with long-range weapons. The position of our faction is clear. We want to give your armed forces the ability to reach military bases in Russia. Merz said the politician believes that the restriction on the range of weapons forces Ukraine to fight with its hands tied behind its back. Okay, so we're not really going to watch this whole video, but I'll let it roll just for a minute. So again, you know, it seems like if he ends up becoming the chancellor, we're going to be hearing very soon that Taurus missiles will be going to Ukraine. And we know from Volodymyr Zelensky as well, part of his victory package that he unveiled just about a month or so ago, it talks about having long-range weapons or a defense package is what he calls it, to protect Ukraine and also force Russia to end this war. That's what these missiles could potentially do. So very soon we could be hearing that the Taurus missiles are going to Ukraine. So just be prepared for that in the coming weeks and months. Okay, also from Glasnost, German opposition leader Friedrich Merz, who has every chance of becoming the country's next chancellor, arrived in Kiev today. The war in Ukraine must end as soon as possible. Only if Ukraine can defend itself will Putin enter into negotiations. Previously, he said Germany should supply Ukraine with long-range Taurus missiles. Okay, so this was a picture of him just getting off the locomotive inside of Kiev as he was visiting Ukraine today with Volodymyr Zelensky. Okay, also we have some statements that I want to share with you guys as well that came out from over the weekend, primarily on Saturday, as we had Volodymyr Zelensky, Donald Trump, and also Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, that were meeting in Paris. So some statements coming out from there that I want to show you guys. So this from War Translated Dmitry. Zelensky stated that Ukraine may consider Macron's proposal to send some foreign troops to Ukraine until the country becomes a NATO member. Okay, so we have been hearing over the last couple weeks some talks again coming out from France, even the United Kingdom, but I think the United Kingdom withdrew from this idea. But originally we heard from the UK and France that they were considering sending troops to Ukraine, maybe even military advisors. The UK kind of backed out from that, which was being reported by David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary of the UK. But we have had France not pull out of that idea yet, okay? So they could potentially still be sending troops over to Ukraine. And it looks like Zelensky could be open to considering Emmanuel Macron's proposal to send some foreign troops to Ukraine, okay? And it says here until the country becomes a NATO member. So we'll see what happens there. That could be big news. Also from Max24, I'm going to call President Biden in the near future and raise the issue of the invitation to NATO, says Zelensky. So we have been hearing a lot that Volodymyr Zelensky really is trying to push right now to get Ukraine into NATO. He believes that the NATO blanket over Ukraine is potentially one of the only security guarantees that can protect Ukraine permanently from any further Russian attacks. Some people may say that's true and maybe not, but that's what he believes. So it looks like he's going to be trying to raise this issue to Joe Biden here very soon, because he's trying to get Joe Biden to send an invitation to Ukraine to join NATO before he gets out of office in January. All right, so moving on to another update from the Ukrainian Review. I told Macron that NATO is fine as long as they pay their bills. When I joined NATO, no one paid. and then they paid after I stepped in, said Trump. Trump has previously said that if he wins, he may withdraw security guarantees for alliance countries that spend less than 2% of their GDP on defense. Okay, so we know that for months now, Donald Trump has been talking about potentially even withdrawing the United States from the alliance, from NATO. And he's come out many times in the past saying that many NATO members are not maintaining their level of 2% defense spending towards NATO as a collective. If countries don't start to step up, then he may start to withdraw some support for NATO. So we'll see what happens here. But it looks like for the most part, maybe he might not withdraw the United States from NATO, but I feel like he kind of does this to put pressure on other nations in NATO to get them to step up and start what he calls paying their bills and contributing to NATO equally. That seems fair and an honest way of going about that, I guess. But let me know what you think down below. Okay, also from Max24, Trump is forming a concept for implementing his plan to quickly end the war, according to the New York Times. Zelensky wants to negotiate a peace. This is something new. We did not talk about the details. He believes that the time has come and Putin should think, he said. Okay, so we've been hearing a lot as well from Donald Trump that he's putting together this plan to try to end the war inside of Ukraine. He's come out so many times in the past as well saying that he would have this war wrapped up and in the bag as president-elect. We haven't really seen that completely yet, but we are seeing some signs and information indicating what potentially the plans could be that Donald Trump will try to lay out for Ukraine and Russia to see if they can end this war. But we'll see what happens here in the coming months, okay? Also from next to Zelensky, Putin has no intention of ending the war against Ukraine and must be forced to do so. The only way to force him is by ensuring Ukraine is strong. A strong Ukraine before any diplomacy means strength on the battlefield. This includes a strong army, weapon packages, long-range systems, undoubtedly, ATACMS, Taurus, Storm Shadow, and Scalp missiles, Zelensky stated during his conversation with Macron and Trump in Paris. So if you notice, he mentioned more about the Taurus missiles here, okay? So I think he's expecting to be receiving these very soon. And I think that would be pretty good types of weaponry to be defending Ukraine if we do have the ATACMS, Storm Shadow, Scalp, and Taurus at the same time, because the Taurus would definitely give Ukraine the ability to strike much deeper inside of Russia. So we'll see if that ends up coming. But if you notice, he continues to speak the same rhetoric saying that, we need to force Russia to end this war, put Russia in a position where they feel like they're losing. That's how Ukraine can win at the negotiating table is kind of what he's been saying recently. But here's a photo of them meeting inside of Paris, the three of them, just over the weekend, okay? All right, also from Max24, Trump said he will try to end the war if I can, said NBC News. September 7th, I will end the war within 24 hours after victory. December 8th, I will end it if I can. Okay, so this was apparently during an NBC interview. I did see part of that interview, some other things he was talking about when it comes to the war with Russia and Ukraine. But apparently this was one of the things that he stated during that interview was he will try to end it if he can, which is interesting because for the longest time, the run up to his presidency and trying to win as president-elect and get into the White House, he was reporting many times that he would have this war ended, okay? And now it's looking like maybe he may be doubting himself. Let me know what you think down below. But, will Donald Trump be able to end this war? We've heard from Vladimir Putin as well. He's come out and said in the past that Trump would not be able to end this war, that, this is between Russia and Ukraine. But who knows what's going to happen here? Will Donald Trump have enough influence to force Ukraine and Russia to negotiate? And if they do, is it going to benefit Ukraine or Russia in the end? It's definitely a lot of questions up in the air right now in terms of that. But that was something that came out today. Okay, also from War Translated Dmitry, Belarusians are already drawing a range and flight time map for the Oreshnik that Lukashenko requested from Putin. Okay, late last week, we had a meeting of Vladimir Putin and Alexander Lukashenko, who met in Belarus for a summit. During this summit, we had Alexander Lukashenko asking Vladimir Putin to send the Oreshnik medium-range ballistic missiles over to Belarus to protect their nation with this new missile. So now already, not even a week later, it's been like 3 or 4 days, we already have diagrams coming out from Belarus showing that they can strike targets all over Europe using this new weapon. So obviously that's major provocation there from Belarus. And we're hearing that potentially by mid to late of next year in 2025, they could potentially be receiving this new Oreshnik missile, okay? All right, moving on to another update from Samuel Bendet. From Russia's Rybar Telegram channel, the importance of Syria is a key hub for Russian operations in Africa. The loss of Syria as a refueling and logistics point undermines all of Russian efforts on the continent. Okay, so as most of you probably know, over the weekend, pretty much just yesterday actually, Syria has been completely lost, okay, when in terms of Russian control, Iranian control, and Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad actually fled Syria. I think he's actually seeking asylum in Moscow right now. And now that Russia does not really have an influence over here in Syria anymore, it's definitely going to affect their operations down in Africa, is kind of what this diagram is showing here, that Syria was one of the major stopping points for Russia, as they would stop there and refuel their airplanes or whatever they're transferring over here to their bases down in Africa. Now that's going to make it difficult for them to do that. It looks like they're going to have to fly all the way to Libya instead of stopping in Syria. But I am hearing that I think Russia is trying to keep some of their air bases open inside of Syria right now. But they have been evacuating a lot of their troops from some of their naval bases inside of Syria. So that's going to be a headache for Russia moving forward in the future. Also from Nexta, in Russia, there are complaints about excessive male mortality, and blame is being placed on the reckless behavior of men themselves. Male mortality in Russia is hitting record levels. Yuri Krupnov, head of the supervisory board of the Institute of Demography, Migration and Regional Development of the Russian Federation, acknowledged that men aged 25 to 45 in Russia die 5 to 6 times more often than in Europe. The reason, according to him, lies in reckless behavioral patterns of men. Putin has already ordered the creation of a council on demographic and family policy, which will be headed by the Speaker of the Federation Council, Valentina Matvienko. Meanwhile, the director of the Hermitage, Mikhail Piotrovsky, has suggested a way to solve the demographic problem. He advised pregnant women to visit the museum so that childbirth goes well and children turn out well. What do you think is the reason for excessive male mortality in Russia? Let me know what you think down below, the real reason why male mortality rates are skyrocketing right now. Obviously, there is a war going on inside of Ukraine, and we have been hearing that many Russian soldiers are losing their lives, either being killed or wounded on the battlefield. Ukraine is projecting somewhere around 700,000 troops wounded and killed in battle. So I think that could be potentially the main reason why, but let me know what you think down below in regards to that. Definitely a big story coming out today, and kind of interesting one at the same time. Also from Nexta, in Lithuania, a member of a conservative party is suspected of spying for Russia. The Lithuanian prosecutor's office has completed a pre-trial investigation against a member of the Conservative Party, the Homeland Union, Lithuanian Christian Democrats, suspected of spying for Russia, the BNS newspaper reported. According to the version of the prosecutor's office, the spy, who has Russian and Lithuanian citizenship, arrived in Lithuania in 2018 on behalf of Russian military intelligence. He allegedly collected information of interest to Russian security forces using encrypted radio communications. During the investigation, sophisticated spy equipment was seized. Okay, so we've been hearing a lot about this recently. Lots of top officials in primarily NATO nations being arrested and accused of spying for Russia. So this has been reported quite a bit. Looks like we have another major report coming out of Lithuania just today. Okay, so very crazy situation there. Okay, also from Glasnost Gone, Putin has spent 200 plus billion on his ego-driven full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia suffered at least 700,000 casualties since February 2022. And Russian losses in just the first year of Putin's war of choice are more than Moscow's losses in all the conflicts since World War II combined. This was stated by the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin just over the weekend. Let me know if you agree with this statement here. Do you think this is pretty accurate? Or at least very close in terms of Russian losses? I mean, I'm sure they have spent a lot of money on this war. I mean, there's lots of allocated resources heading over to Ukraine right now. And then think about just the Kursk region alone as well. We've been hearing so much equipment being lost over in the Kursk region, major battles being held just in that area alone. So I think it is possible that some of this information is correct, but let me know what you think. Again, that was from U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin from the United States. Okay, also we got a video here from Avdiivka. This is from Anton Gerashenko. This is Avdiivka. Effing hell. Ruins, this is the Russian army. This is where we passed. Russian-occupied Avdiivka in Donetsk region. So I'm going to show you guys this video coming out from Avdiivka. This city was taken, I think, like a year or two ago. It was a little while back that Russia took over Avdiivka. And I want to show you guys this to show you just how completely destroyed Avdiivka is. And, you know, what really is the goal at the end of the day? To take over a town, completely destroy it, and, you know, turn it into ruins. What does that really do to benefit Russia? Let me know what you think down below. But let's take a look at this, just 19 seconds long.
Вот Авдеевка, блядь, после штурмов во что превратилась, нахуй. Развалины. Вот это российская армия, здесь мы прошли. Вот так вот. Вот.
All right, so yet again, another major town inside of Ukraine that was leveled to the ground. Avdiivka was undergoing heavy fighting for a very long time, and Ukraine had to pull out of this city. I think it was like a year or two ago is when we heard about this, but it was definitely quite a while back. But we could see major damage done to this town. That's why I wanted to show you guys this video here. So again, how does that benefit Russia taking over these towns after they've been just completely leveled to the ground? Definitely makes me wonder, what is the point behind all of this after completely destroying towns like Avdiivka? Okay, also from the informant, a worker has been killed when structures at the Snezkom ski resort in Russia collapsed. 3 beams fell simultaneously, and residents say the impact was so strong that it shook walls and chandeliers in nearby homes. A video of the incident captures a moment an individual falls from a considerable height while those on the ground scatter in panic. Opened 15 years ago, the all-season Snezkom ski resort was the largest in Europe, allowing skiing in both winter and summer. In 2022, the complex was closed for a planned reconstruction, but it was later decided to demolish it. So you're going to see this whole structure here just completely fall apart, land on the ground. There's going to be some people on the ground as well. You'll see like a yellow circle kind of indicating where there was some innocent bystanders nearby, and this thing just completely collapsed inside of Russia. Take a look at this. All right, guys, that has got to be so frightening. You can see there's some people down here on the ground. Here's another person, 2 or 3 people here starting to run as this whole thing was caving in and falling apart. And, you know, me personally, I am very afraid of heights, so you'll never see me going on anything like this. And that's one of the major reasons why, is that you just never know when something like this is going to collapse or happen. And, you know, that's got to be one of the most frightening ways to die, is falling to your death. So very sad situation over here. This was just some innocent people that were here hanging out at this ski resort when this thing started to collapse. So very sad and scary situation there. Also from next, a large fire in Moscow. An enterprise is on fire. In the east of the Russian capital, a shop for the production of decorative elements has burst into flames, propagandists write. The area of the fire, 150 square meters. Inside may be gas cylinders. Employees of the enterprise were evacuated. Rescuers are working on the site. So yet again, another major fire inside of Russia. Don't know exactly how this started, and I don't believe this has any relation to Russia's military, but we have definitely been seeing a lot of fires breaking out all over Russia, primarily in the Moscow region. So don't know if this was some sort of accident or maybe this was purposely caused, but we have been reporting lots of fires over the last few months inside of Russia, okay? So once again, inside Moscow. All right, also from ViceGrad24, Ukraine will receive another 40 top modern CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles from Sweden and Denmark. Sweden and Denmark have signed an agreement to jointly procure 205 such IFVs from BAE Systems. Haglund's worth $2.3 billion. So check these out. These are very cool looking. And looks like Ukraine can be receiving more of these infantry fighting vehicles. And this should bolster their defenses even more and probably help them out up in the Kursk region if they need more armored support up there to continue holding on. As we've been hearing also that the troops over there in the Kursk region were asked to hold on and quote-unquote wait for Donald Trump to get back into office so they can start to using the Kursk territory as leverage for negotiations when that moves forward, potentially starting next year or early next year. Okay, also, we've got a video here again to show you guys from Anton Yuroshenko. The Security Service of Ukraine conducted a special operation in the Kerch Bay in Russian-occupied Crimea. On the night of December 6, a group of Ukrainian Sea Baby drones engaged in battle with Russian helicopters, aircraft, and Raptor patrol boats that were trying to intercept them. Sea Baby drones equipped with large caliber machine guns with ballistic programs for automatic targeting and auto acquisition. Intercepted radio communications indicate that there are dead and wounded on board the helicopters. The Russian helicopters were heavily damaged and now require major repairs, the security service reported. In addition, the drones hit a barge carrying military equipment and equipment for the repair of the Crimean bridge after previous explosions. So lots of damage being reported here from Ukrainian Sea Baby drones. Now, there was a report that I was not able to cover. I was going to do this on Saturday, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get to it. But going in from Friday into Saturday was when we had reports of explosions near the Kerch Bridge off the eastern coast of Crimea. And we thought that the Kerch Bridge was attacked, and also there was a shipyard called the Zaliv Shipyard on the eastern side of Crimea. Well, apparently the attacks were not on either of those, and actually these were gas platforms that were being targeted with Magura V5 drones, okay? And apparently they destroyed multiple gas platforms off the coast of Crimea on the eastern side, and apparently the Russians also had some radar surveillance equipment installed on these gas platforms, which is also why Ukraine targeted them. So at the same time, while they were targeting these gas platforms, we also had Sea Baby drones that were attacking helicopters and other equipment from the Russians. So I have a video to show you guys. I actually pulled it up for myself and added my own music because this video that was uploaded to 2X does have music, but I believe it could be copywritten, so I don't want to have any problems with that. So I went ahead and recreated the video for you guys, just a minute and 22 seconds long. So go ahead and take a look at this real quick and we'll come right back. All right, pretty insane video, guys. Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed that. So if you were able to see there, yeah, it looks like they were targeting some helicopters as well using some of these Sea Baby drones. Now, Ukraine has been getting very sophisticated with their drone use, not only with FPV drones, but now naval drones where they've got machine guns attached to them. And I also saw a video over the weekend that Ukraine was also attaching FPV drones to the tops of these Magura V5 naval drones that they use to crash into ships, and they also use to destroy these gas platforms off the coast of Crimea. And apparently what they do with these FPV drones, they launch them off of the tops of these Magura V5 naval drones, and they were also using them to attack some of the people that were working on these gas platforms, okay? Russia's military troops that were also there. So not only were they hitting the bases of these gas platforms with the Magura V5 naval drones, but they were also attacking with FPV drones, aerial drones as well. So pretty crazy news, guys. So we're going to move on. I got a couple more things to show you before we get you out of here. This is from Sprinter Family. Russia's ready to immediately cease fire and begin negotiations if Ukraine gives up 4 regions, Crimea, and also NATO membership, says Peskov. So that is an insane demand. I don't see Ukraine doing this. I think they would continue to fight on versus just giving up all these regions. But like, yeah, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia region, and Kherson region, basically all of these, for the most part, Russia doesn't really fully control them. I'm not sure about Luhansk. I think they might control majority of it. But for sure, these other three regions, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, they don't control the entirety of them. So looks like that was a demand from the Russians, according to Dmitry Peskov. He's the Kremlin spokesman, so he's initially stating that, Russia will go into negotiations immediately and end this war, get a ceasefire going if Ukraine will give up these four regions, also Crimea and NATO membership. But that is a long shot. I don't see Ukraine agreeing to that. So we'll see what happens here in the coming months when they actually start to negotiate. It's going to get very interesting. Also from Jay in Kiev, let's take a moment of silence for Russia's second largest seller of consumer electronics, M-Video, employer of 30,000 people, 1,200 stores since 1993, one of the success stories of the post-Soviet economy. They just announced that due to the collapse in sale of mobile phones, they will begin buying, refurbishing, and selling used phones. A savage nation will always return to their savage roots in the mud. So what this tells me is this possibly indicates that maybe this company can't afford, or they can't sell, brand new phones anymore because people are probably strapped for cash when it comes to Russia, okay? Many of the Russian citizens are probably broke. And then, think about all these loans that they've had to take out. If they have to take out any loans and their interest rates are 35%, 40%, even high as 50%, people are going to be so in over their heads and buried up to their eyeballs with debt that they can't afford to go out and buy a brand new phone. So it looks like this company is having to resort to refurbishing and selling used phones to just stay in business, as looks like even their stock price here devaluing over time. So this is another major indication that Russia's economy is not doing well. This is the second largest seller of consumer electronics inside of Russia. So crazy news there. Also from Max24, the Russians have started to install frontline traffic lights, and this is according to Soldier Flash. And so if it's a green light, I think it means FPV drone is not there. Yellow means FPV drone is far away. And then red, FPV drone is near. So it looks like the Russians started installing traffic lights that indicate whether FPV drones are getting close to the area, so that way people can be alerted ahead of time if they start to show up. This also indicates how effective the FPV drones that Ukraine is using. I've been talking so much about these, and I don't think the FPV drones get enough attention versus how much they should, as they've been very effective in this war. And it shows the entire world that drone warfare really is going to be the new style of warfare moving forward in the future. And so much, equipment losses and troop losses have been due to FPV drones that Ukraine has been using. And just imagine it allows them to not have to expend a soldier. They could just use a cheap piece of equipment like an FPV drone, and, they could just mass produce these, which they are doing that inside of Ukraine right now. Okay, also one last thing to share with you guys from War Translated Dmitry. Russian Ombudsman Moskalkova, sorry guys, that's a tough one to say, Moskalkova, said that the Russians had handed over to Ukraine the bodies of Ukrainian defenders who allegedly died in the crash of an Ilyushin-76 aircraft. Instead, the coordination headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war reported that the remains of the dead were transferred, from Russia to Ukraine during the latest repatriation activities. Experts are now establishing whether they really belong to Ukrainian servicemen. So I believe this relates back to a report that we heard, I think it was back towards the beginning of the year. I remember reporting this, that we had an Ilyushin-76 aircraft that was shot down over, I believe it was in Russia, and it was supposedly transporting Ukrainian POWs. And it was shot down by air defenses. I think this could have been Russia that shot it down, or it could have been Ukraine. I don't remember the full story, but after this plane crash, looks like the Russians had gathered up the remains of anybody who survived on board, and claiming that these were the Ukrainian POWs that they gathered up their remains, and sent them back to Ukraine just recently. So that was an absolutely crazy story when that happened. And I remember Ukraine was even blaming Russia, saying that they supposedly did this on purpose or something like that. It was a very insane story. I remember reporting this months back, just this year. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update on that situation as well, in case you remembered that story But lots of news coming out from Ukraine today, especially with this former director of the Russian prison camp of Avdiivka, who was assassinated just today using a car bomb in the occupied Donetsk. So I hope you guys got something out of this update today. Definitely a lot of information coming out. If you did get something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.